Hey everybody, Sprocket here again. Um, Beautiful sunshiny day out here. Just if you're not standing in the sun cool enough for like, oh, I don't know, long sleeve shirt, something like that. But so what I got going on here, this is, I don't know if you can see this. This is obviously my front fender that I've been working on. So I started, whoa, that was really close. Started dollying out this top side here. Okay. Hammer and dolly, or in my case, just hammer and whatever I got to get in behind it to support it to, it's really hard to explain. So let's just say my hole is a low spot. Okay. Which means it's dished like this, so the easiest way you would think would be the most direct would be to pound on it from the other side to make it come up meet level with the rest of it. Well, that's all fine and dandy if you can get to it to pound on it. See, I got holes in here, but that doesn't mean I can get to it. So what I've been doing, this is part of the reason why body work is so stinking expensive, is because it's so time consuming. So what I've been doing is I've been stuck things like this, it's nice and flat, in behind the support rib here to basically pry out on my low spot. And then what I'm doing is I'm tapping around where I have it supported with this. So what that'll do is that'll bring my low spot up without denting the rest of it. It's, like I said, it's hard to explain, but I've gotten most of, it's real hard to see here, but I've gotten most of my waviness out of it, enough where I'm happy with it. I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but I can still feel a low spot right there, but that was a spot where it was previously welded. I don't know by who, but see, what happens is a lot of guys who do body work, what they'll do is they'll weld a patch in like this, warp the crap out of it like I did, but instead of fixing it or trying to fix it by reshaping the metal, is they'll just slap a big thick coat of Bondo on it and cover it up. Like I've said, I really don't like, in fact, that really ticks me off, because all that does is cause all this extra rust, because that water will sit in there. It just gets in behind the Bondo. It doesn't matter how good you put it in there. It'll get in behind it, at least the thick stuff. Now, if you just do a nice thin layer and you prepare the metal correctly to accept it, then you're okay. But, so yeah. Got the top side done. See, I'm working on this right here, my body ridge. This one's not too bad, but the problem I have is down here. It is stupid wavy, and I got a low spot. You can probably see it with the shadowing. It's right here, where this is supposed to have a curve like this. The problem is it's dink and back up again. I don't really have any access to it except through here, because that's where my inner patch is. Whoop, there we go. So that's what I'm working on. Once I get that out, then I can work on putting this little piece here and welding this in here to hold this whole thing in place to the main support, and then work on this little corner piece. And there's a few spots in my welding where I left little pinholes I got to touch up, but then for the most part, at least this patch repair will be done. Alright, I know I'm jumping around here a bunch, but this here is my front turn signal / marker light. So when I first got the car, of course it's hard to see in there, there's two little contacts in there that are spring loaded. So if I back here pull on this, you can see the brass contacts sticking out right there, and like I said, they're spring loaded. Now this kind of works, but it's not reliable. So what I found is that Dorman, this is autographed, but Dorman makes these too. This is a part number. Now, if it was the Dorman, it just wouldn't have that AC. It'd just be that 85803. And that gives you this. Now, what I don't want to do is, because my metal socket on that one's brass. So, that one's not damaged. I don't want to mess with it. Not if I can help it. I'm going to leave. Alright, where was I? My phone started ringing. It was the wife. But anyhow, they have this socket. Now, like I was saying, the old one's brass, so if I can leave it there, that's what I want to do. But, as you can see, the guts come out of it, and you can see new springs, new brass contacts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and swap the guts from this one into that one over there. Now, this was fairly inexpensive, so I'm not worried about not using this little cup. But if your cup is rotted out on the back side of these, where the center of it's too corroded for you to be able to do anything, or this little plastic piece, which is this right here, is damaged in some way, or in my case, not in this one, but in the other one, which I haven't pulled yet, the springs were completely rotted away. This is a good replacement to be able to get it done. So what I'm going to end up having to do, since I don't want to lose the grommet or the plug, is I'm going to cut the wires here and splice them, and then just put these guts into this one. Show you more in a minute. Alright, well, remember I told you if I found that package for the turn springs for the turn signal cam? Well, here it is. Dorman help, and there's the part number. 49312. That's to get just the springs. You don't have to get the whole kit to get the springs. Somewhere, I hope, they still make these. Alright, so here's the old one. It's a little tricky to get out of there. So this one, like I said, is not in terrible shape, except for I cracked the plastic over here. But this one I repaired. I had to, these springs right here, because like I said, they were rotted off. These were actually out of a click pen. I cut it in half and then made it work. But since the wiring is still in good shape, I'm going to keep this as a spare, just in case. You never know when you might need it. Alright, so, come on, focus. As you can see, this is my new wiring setup. There's a little notch, which this thing does not want to focus on. Put my finger there. Woo. There's a little dimple right there by my fingernail. Now that there is dimpled in to keep this plastic piece from sliding forward. Okay, which of course made it a little tricky to get the old one out. But it also will help keep this in place. Now, the original cup has this rubber grommet, so I'm going to slide that over the wires as well, and then I'll resplice it into this, a couple of connectors. Now, for some reason, I can't locate my dielectric grease, so in a pinch, you can use petroleum jelly. Basically, something petroleum-based or not petroleum-based, whatever, to displace water. So this is always constantly outside, so you always want to make sure inside of here, where the bulb is going to be sitting, down in there, and in the wire connections, when you use your butt connectors. Put some of that in there so that way water has no chance to get in there and corrode it up. It's just a preventative measure to keep stuff living longer. Alright, so, I know it looks like it's more than that, but of course I got this like super blown up. But you want about a 1/4 inch of your insulation sheared off, of course using a pair of wire strippers. So, what I always do, because this wire is not twisted inside, come on, focus. There it goes. So I'll put a little twist to it, just like you would with a twist tie on a loaf of bread, that kind of thing. So that way these stay together when I go to put them inside your butt connectors. The red thing's right there. Now ideally, I'd want to have some heat shrink to put over top of this as another added protectant to keep water out. However, I have found in the past, in my experience with working on trailers, that heat shrink is only good for a little bit. until it starts letting water in, because the wires will actually condensate. If there's any gaps inside, it'll condensate and then it corrodes anyway. So that's why I'm only going to use some butt connectors, and I'm going to lube them up real good, make sure they don't leak. So I'm going to put some right on here, so when I put it into the butt connector, it'll squeeze around inside there. You know, don't be afraid to put a bunch in there. So now, this being an incandescent bulb, this having two black wires, and this of course being blue and brown, it doesn't really matter with an incandescent bulb which end goes to which. Now the reason that is because all they do is complete the circuit. Now if it was an LED, then it makes a difference. But with a regular old bulb, incandescent bulb, it doesn't matter. So that being the case, you want to make sure that you, well, hang on, this is a turn signal. It might matter. Nah, it shouldn't. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Okay, just in case it does matter, here's the old one. Another good reason to keep it around. It is oriented inside the socket a certain way. There's that little notch right there. So that, of course, left a mark inside the socket, so I put the new one in the same way. So now I know which wire's which. And then I can just match it up with the old wires. Okay, so these are connected. Now what I like to do is to grab both sides of the wires, give them a good tug, not real hard, but a nice good solid tug to make sure that they're solid inside the butt connector. Now, the style, come on, focus, of crimpers that I'm using leaves a little dent right here. What I always like to do is pack a little bit of this, well in this case petroleum jelly, but I usually use dielectric grease. Pack it into there because that becomes a thin, weak spot where water could get in. So I'll pack it into those little dents, and the openings where the wire went in, I'll also kind of shove it in there, kind of like you're packing bearings with grease, just to be sure, as best I can, that no water is going to get in there. Now it does make these a little bit messy, but it's worth it. Okay, wow, that just got really dark. Dumb thing. Here we go. This support piece right here for the bumper. I don't know about like Chevelles and stuff like that, but on this Skylark, you need to take, there's a bolt back here, which is hard to see because of how dark it is. You remove this bolt so that way you can pull this out in order to get this out of this area where it goes in. Otherwise, it becomes very hard to work on. Now, I only just figured this out after I can't tell you how many times of fighting with this thing, trying to get it in and out to be able to work on it. So, learn from my mistake and all my time, and just loosen up that there support bracket, and it gives you room to get it out. Alright, so, got my new pigtail installed. It's for the side marker over here. Sorry about that brightness. I also figured out, I don't know how well you can see this. See how that hole's slotted out? It's supposed to be round. I'm just looking back here. Let's see, right there. See there's two right next to each other? It's only supposed to be one. Okay, the smaller one. And over there, you can just so see it in the background, there are two holes next to each other as well. And this one you can't really see because I hosed it down, but got my finger in it. This really, really big hole right here. Yeah, that's where this here, where did I put it? That support, right there by my strippers. That's where that's supposed to go with a nut and bolt. But somebody thought it was a good idea. Put one of these on the bottom of it. These are not supposed to come off. This is tack welded. You can just so see how it's got little flat ears on the corners. This is, let me see if I can find one here I can show you. Yeah, right here. That's what that is. See, this isn't supposed to come off of the parent metal. But somebody had that on the bottom of that support rod instead of, oh, hang on. Before I say that. Oh. So, I could be wrong, but what it looks like is it was supposed to be set up like that. See how that one's welded on? That's how this one was. So I sit corrected. So I'm going to have to clean this up, weld that back on there, so that way it's actually the way it's supposed to be. Hey, there, it finally focused. But, yeah. Now, I already knew there were issues with this thing as far as being hit on both ends in the front. I just didn't realize how extensive the damage was as far as things not lining up. You can see I got a missing square nut right there, too. Yeah. So it'll be interesting trying to put it back together the way it's supposed to be. Got a lot of metal stretching. Well, anyway, that's it for now. Have a good one.